Kellyanne Conway, Senior Counsel to the President, live from the White House. And welcome back, Kellyanne. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
I got a long list.
Another slow news day here.
No, it's not. I've got a long list, so give me a chance to get in here. We'll see how many topics we run through, okay? Paul Manafort, how closely is the President watching this trial that begins today?
We've not discussed that in quite a while, and I would note for your audience, Bill, that the judge has very strictly instructed no mention of Paul Manafort's role in the Trump campaign. Don't mention Trump, don't mention Russia, don't mention collusion. This trial obviously centers on matters that have nothing to do with the campaign. I think that even Mr. Manafort, as I read it, had requested that there be no mention of his brief tenure at the Trump campaign several years ago. And I believe there's one witness there may be one matter of somebody whom he had gotten a loan from in exchange for a job on the campaign. That's just what I read. Obviously, I was the campaign manager for the winning part of the campaign. I assure you I will not be brought up on federal criminal charges of any type, and I certainly wasn't making money in Ukraine or talking to anyone in Moscow. That's very clear. This has nothing to do with collusion, Russia, nothing to do with the Trump campaign.
Okay, let's see how that trial goes. Topic number 2, Iran. Well, if the president were to meet with Iran's president, what would he get out of that?
Well, the president has made very clear he's open to conversation and negotiation. He's done that with Chairman Kim. He's done that with Mr. Putin. And he has also said if it's not a good deal for the United States and our interests and our workers and our security, he'll walk away anytime. But he's always open to negotiation and conversation. Both the president and Secretary Pompeo have made clear that Iran would have to demonstrably change its behavior, including to its own people. Its malign behavior to its own people would have to stop. If it's willing to do better economically for its own people, then perhaps this president would be open to conversation. This is a better approach, though, wouldn't you agree, Bill, than forking over gazillions of dollars to the Iranian regime for some nuclear deal that this president has taken our country out of, because he said from the beginning on the campaign trail in a winning way was a bad deal overseen by the last administration of which his political opponent was a member.
Okay, let's see if it happens on Iran. But you mentioned Chairman Kim in North Korea. Now we get word confirmation that they're still testing missiles in North Korea. What does that suggest about the success or not that came out of Singapore, Kellyanne?
It suggests that this is a process. You're talking about 68 years of sustained war and conflict in Korea. And we're ahead of the game in this way. We have those 3 detainees home in American soil several months now because of this president's leadership and intervention. And later this week, the Vice President of the United States, actually tomorrow, will be in Hawaii to receive the remains of our fallen from Korea, from the Korean War. And this is so significant to those families, really to an entire nation who owes these soldiers, these fallen soldiers, who have been separated from their families for 7 decades, a debt of gratitude for which we will never fully repay. Again, that is this president's leadership, his intervention, Bill, his insistence that this happen. But we'll see what happens, as the president says. This is an ongoing process. Things don't change overnight. But it was President Obama who told President-elect Trump that his, quote, greatest challenge was going to be North Korea. And President Trump said to President Obama, well, did you ever meet with Chairman Kim? No, never did that. So at least he's trying to approach it in a very different way. Secretary of State Pompeo continues to be our main point person on these negotiations.
Let's hope there is success on that. I know you're keeping a very close eye on the midterms. Big rally tonight in Tampa, Florida for Ron DeSantis, maybe a few Congress members on the west coast of Florida as well, and really tight elections. Barack Obama lost 63 seats on his first midterm in 2010. And this week he had a message about a possible shutdown over the lack of funding for a wall on the southern border. How does that help the case, a government shutdown for a midterm election that you know is going to be very closely watched, Kellyanne?
Well, the president is focused on the other part of that, which is immigration. It's just completely concerning to us. It's consternation, not even frustration at this point, as to why Congress won't do its job and pass meaningful immigration reform. This president could not be more clear for the last 3+ years now, Bill, on what he thinks about a broken immigration system. He repeated it again yesterday: end, catch, and release, releasing people into the interior of this country, ending chain migration, excuse me, going to a merit-based system, ultimately, of immigration, and of course, having that wall, having border security. It's in stark contrast to the Democratic Party, which is running to abolish ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which keeps us all safe, which is on the front lines of stopping child smuggling and drug trafficking and other nefarious activity, seized enough fentanyl just last year to kill every man and woman and child in this country. And yet the Democrats want to shut down ICE. There will be no loss of 63 seats. You know why? Because President Trump didn't try to do a government takeover of health care that's widely unpopular. Instead, he has cut taxes and a major deregulation, bringing peace and prosperity to this country.
I grant you
it's a huge contrast. So there'll be a contrast at the ballot box. But also, I have to say what also the president is doing first today in Tampa. He's going to Tampa, Florida, and he's going to Tampa Bay Tech after he signs the Perkins reauthorization. Perkins is going to benefit about 11 million high school students across this country who want to go towards vocational technical education, like many of my fellow students at the high school I went to in South Jersey did. They graduated from high school, they graduated that technical vocational certificate, and the very next day or month, they supported themselves and their families as mechanics, as carpenters, as hairdressers. We need to get folks ready for the economy of today and tomorrow. We have 6.6 million available jobs looking for workers, and now instead of workers and employers looking past each other, they're looking for each other under the Trump economy. And this is very exciting.
Right, on the workforce thing. We're going to follow the event. We'll watch the rally later tonight in Tampa. Here's one of the tweets from earlier today. Pretty active on Twitter so far. Here's one of them. One of the reasons we need great border security, he writes, is that Mexico's murder rate in 2017 increased by 27% to 31,174 people killed. A record, he writes. The Democrats want open borders. I want maximum border security and respect for ICE and our great law enforcement professionals. You laid out the case. I mean, you know the districts rather well about the contrast in this election. Today, what is the percentage you give of holding Congress for Republicans?
I think it's better than 50%. And I know what the historical trends are, but this is a president who defies trends and makes his own. He defies history and makes his own history. And as the president said, he and the vice president will be very active on the campaign trail. You mentioned today, again on Thursday, we'll be in Pennsylvania. The vice president was in Ohio yesterday. So the president says he will be very active, and we know he's not afraid of several stops a day on a campaign trail, all the while his first priority is being president of the United States. But remember, those historical trends, Clinton losing 54 seats and the Republicans taking over 94, Obama losing 63 seats and losing again 4 years later because of Obamacare mostly, and because he didn't have a massive tax cut and he didn't deregulate and he didn't try to broker negotiation, denuclearization around the world like this president is. All the while, this president, I think, is going to be much more active. He's not telling these folks to go it alone.
He's picked a lot of these.
And it's important. Look, we know what the historical trends are, but I don't think you're going to see anything like those dozens and dozens of losses. However, 42 Republicans have retired. That's something that we can't control. 97
days to go to that. I know he's picked a lot of these places where congressional districts are toss-ups, so we'll see how it goes. I appreciate your time. Thank you, and I hope you come on back.